All right, you good there?
Yeah, it says I have to continue. Click it.
Yeah. Okay, okay, you good? All right. So this morning is certainly my pleasure. I'm starting this. It's kind of a video series on sports and orthopedic leadership, and this is the very first one that I've done. So Gordon and I are going to see how it works out. he's not quite sure about. I think I'm a little more sure about it than he is. But when I thought about doing this series, Gordon, I asked him. He's the first one that I asked to do it, and I think he thought I was crazy when I sent him the text asking him about it. And that's one thing I love about Gordon is that, he's just so humble about the things that he does and the things that he's been able to do. He's, in my mind, he's an incredible leader. He will tell you that, I'm sure when we get into this, he's going to tell you he's not. But I can assure you he is. When I was a vice president in the sports section, Gordon was in a leadership position with a lot of us there. And anytime there was something that really happened, he was, right in the middle of it and making it move and making it happen. And he does that without, taking credit or getting a lot of acknowledgement for it. And that's one thing that I really appreciated about him so much. And like so many people, I've told him on text, but man, I miss seeing you and being around you at the meetings and everything. So it's good to see you here, even just like this. And I hope we can get together this summer.
Yeah.
So Gordon, tell everyone just briefly a little bit about your background and what kind of leadership roles you've had.
I graduated PT school in 1980 and went to my first CSM in New Orleans in 1981. And there at the sports section meeting, I met Tab Blackburn and Lynn Wallace, and they were my two mentors. Ended up setting up an internship with Tab for when I was in school. And so I went there. And then at that meeting, Lynn was passing out flyers on a sports fellowship or sports residency that he was going to have in Cleveland. And so I picked that up. And so I ended up going to Cleveland when I got a PT school and worked for Lynn for 2 years. I have a master's in exercise physiology at Kent State. Along the way, working for him, that was kind of part of the deal, working with him, and that's how we got my athletic trainer certification at that point with him. That's kind of part of the whole deal with the fellowship that he had set up. And then started practice in Little Rock and was there and was the athletic trainer for University of Arkansas Little Rock. While we had a contract with them, they didn't have any athletic training when we started. So we did that and did that until 1989. 82 to 89, and then sold our practice to Health South. Worked for them for a couple of years. Didn't really like, well, actually only about a year. Didn't really like working for somebody else. So my partner and I that started the place in Little Rock, we moved to Tyler and started practice again, and then we're there for 25 years.
So in Arkansas is where you met Bandy? Is that where you met?
No, actually, Bandy was at Lynn's place with me. We were there at the same time.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know you
there for 2 years.
Well, that's good. I didn't know you were in Arkansas.
Side by side. Now we went. We brought Bill to Arkansas. We went to when we started practice in Arkansas. They needed somebody to teach. The PT school was there in Little Rock at the time, and they needed somebody to teach orthopedics and sports and therics and stuff. So we did that for my partner and I did that for one semester and said, this is not us. We got to get out of this mess.
He said, Bandy, come down. We got some shit for you here going on.
So we recruited Bandy to come do that. And then he was there ever since. And the school moved to Conway. But yeah, that's how Bill got to Little Rock.
Wow.
To Arkansas.
So what kind of
we were so bad at teaching.
I'm sure you weren't. I'm sure you weren't bad. I'm sure you're great. So tell me tell me just a couple of the leadership things you've done within the sports section.
Well, I was on the Sports Specialty Council for specialization. I did that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I was chairman for 1 year. The final year, you kind of rotated through to the chairmanship. And then I was on the executive board of the section with you as treasurer for 2 terms, or
Yep.
whatever the limit was. And then I guess and then I was the member representative to JOSPT, and now I'm on the board of JOSPT, board of directors for JOSPT. Just got renewed for my 3rd and final term. And then along the way, I was on the executive board for International Federation of Sports Therapy.
You're not on that anymore, right? You're off that now?
No,
Or are you still on it?
Yeah. About 2 years. The only thing I'm still left on is the JOSPT.
Okay, good. Well, so you mentioned some of the people that were mentors or people that had impact on your career. How did they do that? What kind of leadership things or mentorship things did they do? Can you give me some examples of things they did that impacted your life that really changed the way and it doesn't have to be just your work life. It could be, your family life or your business life or anything. I mean, tell me some of those people again and how they really changed the trajectory of your career, your life.
Well, I think with Tab and Lynn, it was just working with them and the example that they set. When I was with Tab for whatever it was 8 weeks in Columbus, Georgia, and you were on the go, and all kinds of educational opportunities. But at that point, it's kind of he made all the students write an abstract for JOSPT. So that was kind of the first thing. And then when I got to Cleveland and Bill was there, Tab helped us write our first article. So this was kind of an example kind of thing. Same with Lynn. It was just kind of expected. When I got to Cleveland, I guess he had just gone off as the president of sports section. So he was still very much involved, and that was 1980. So that was the very, very early days of sports PT. I mean, there's only a handful of guys that were really doing it, and they all came through Cleveland while I was there. Like Mangine would come through, Terry Malone would come through.
What were they doing? What do you mean they came through? What do you mean they came through? What were they doing?
Well, they would come through and either for a meeting, or they would come through to I don't know. I was just a peon. I was just working. I just knew I got to meet. I was meeting all those guys all the time, or we'd go to conference, and Lynn would drag us along and introduce us to everybody. So that's kind of how I met everybody, and then with knowing Lynn and Tab, you just kind of get asked to do things along the way, and
do you think would it be safe to say that when you were younger like that, they really expected more out of you than you expected of yourself to try to kind of push you to do?
No question, and just include you by just because you were there. Kind of, it was one of those things where if you were hanging around, then you got put to work, or you had to, they'd ask you to do something, or let you keep hanging around, and so. My guess is, again, you're kind of downplaying your role in all this, but my guess is they saw something in you that they felt you could handle those things, or that you could. There must have been something they saw in working with you and hanging out with you that they felt you could accept that and do it and actually do it, decently, or they probably wouldn't have asked you to do it. But
Yeah, I think that's the way it was with me and George. I think, there were a lot of things kind of like what you explained, where he would ask me to do something or help him do something, or tell me I needed to do something that I wouldn't think that I could have even done. But when someone trusts you or values what you have enough to have faith in you to do something, it's kind of powerful to you, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Because and I think if they ask you to do something and you do it, and you do it, you finish it and do it well enough, then it's just like anything else. You get asked to do something else, the next thing,
Yeah.
and then
It's a
pretty
test.
soon, you're maybe they trust you. So.
Yeah, kind of a test. And if you don't pass the test, then you may not get asked more. And if you get asked more,
Probably right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what can you remember any advice that any one of those guys gave you, along the way? And maybe it wasn't explicit advice, just, hey, Gordon, you need to do this. But was there any advice that you think they gave you or that you gleaned from them?
Tab had, at the time, Tab had a list of 7, call them, what do they call them? 7 corollaries of life. And I can only remember a couple of them. And I asked him, what do you want to do? And he can only remember a couple of them. So
we might want to let him. We won't let him watch this then, because he'll be upset you didn't remember all 7.
Yeah, I had them written down for a long time and in my desk. And then at some point when we moved or closed the practice, I lost them. But one I remember was, I remember a couple of them. One of them was, don't get off the porch if you can't run with the big dogs. So that's kind of like, that's good. It's good advice. If you're not going to do it right and
don't do it. Yeah.
Do it well, then don't do it.
Put effort into it. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Remember any of the others?
And Lynn, probably the one that I took away from Lynn, if I can get it right, is if it was something like, if you can't overcome them with brilliance, then baffle them with bullshit.
Yeah, I heard that one before too. And that one works too, doesn't it?
Again, this was back in the beginning stages of sports PT, so it was a lot of stuff that was. There's not a lot of evidence-based practice. So there's a lot of stuff that was just,
you're trying it,
kind of borrowed from athletic training and then meshing that with PT and, surgery techniques were changing all the time. So everything was new. So
yeah,
there's a lot of, you had to believe in what you're doing and convince other people to believe in it, because there wasn't a lot of evidence to back it up in a lot of cases. Yeah. And all the evidence was being produced at the time.
Literally as you were practicing. Yeah. So what were some of the qualities that the guys that you're talking about, what kind of qualities did they have that made them good leaders, or what kind of qualities? Well, tell me first of all what kind of qualities you feel they had that made them good mentors or leaders, and then what kind of or do you have different ones that you feel that you use when you practice leadership skills?
I would think. I think some of the things that they did that were to give me and Bill and the others that were there at the same time with Lynn, and then the other people that Tab's got a whole list a mile long of mentees that have come along in the sports PT world, but I think was just giving you opportunities and letting you go.
Yeah,
there was
having trust in you.
Put me in positions that stretched you. And I was right out of PT school, and so he got handed a private boys' school to be the athletic trainer. I mean, Bill and I got stuck out there. We were pretty much on our own. It was like, here, run with it.
Yeah. So it was kind of sink or swim, huh? You had to either do it or not.
And a lot of those kind of a lot of sink or swim with both. Yeah, they would be guys, you know, they're done.
Yeah. I think I don't know why your video cut out. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, it's kind of being slow.
Oh,
yeah,
now like fast. Yeah, okay. It just like fast forwarded now. I can still hear you, but your video keeps cutting out. You good now? I think I can see you live now.
I can see you okay.
Okay.
Are you okay on your end?
Yeah, now I am. I am now. Yeah, it was freezing for some reason. I don't know what was going on. But okay, so what? Let's move on here. What do you feel like? And again, these don't have, Gordon. These don't have to be just sports section things. It could be life things too.
Right. Yeah.
What kind of what do you think has challenged you the most in your life? And again, it doesn't have to be work related. It could be life related.
I think the biggest challenge is probably raising a family in these days and times. I mean, just so much, so many distractions and so much temptation and whatever out there. That's the hardest, the biggest challenge is, knowing what's right and wrong and sticking to your guns when there's a lot of pressure to do different, maybe do different things or take a different path.
Yeah. I feel like too, there's so much, so much like information. You're like information overload on everything. I mean, from news to medicine to work, how work changes. It's just like everything is sometimes it's almost too much, isn't it?
Yeah, and how much is enough, and how do you decide what to do? I mean, even when first starting out, I mean, there is trying to keep up with the literature, for example. Back, in the beginning, it was JOSPT and
AJSM.
The AJSM. That was it. I mean, if you read those two, you pretty much read everything. So that was,
there's like 20.
And that was enough of a challenge. That was enough of a challenge on its own. And then now there's, who knows how many, plus all the stuff on the internet. And so and that's the same. And it's the same thing in with your family. There's all kind of good stuff to do, but then you can run yourself crazy doing good stuff, whether it's sports for them or music or
you name it,
whatever.
Yeah,
there's all kind of good things to do, but then you don't have family time, and so there's I think that's probably the biggest challenge is life balance.
Yes, that's what I was getting ready to say. I was going to say that after when you were finished. Yeah, I was going to say that balance is very hard. It's extremely difficult, I think. Yeah. And I don't know that I'm good at it at all.
Well, I don't know we ever get good at it. We just, as long as we keep trying and recognize it.
Yeah, no doubt. So tell me about, because part of being a good leader is, being a good leader, obviously you lead and good things happen sometimes, but other times leaders fail, and I'm sure you've had failures in regard to your life or business or practice or something. What do you think is the biggest failure that you've had? And how did it change your life, and what did you learn from it?
Oh, probably. Well, I think the biggest failure was probably the failure of my first marriage. Because, I mean, you don't ever want that to happen. But good things that definitely came from it afterwards.
So what did you learn? What did you learn from that? I mean, I don't know the details, and I don't know that you need to share your details about a divorce, but what kind of things did you take away from that, or what did you learn about it that makes you now a better person with you've only been married, Karen's your second wife, right?
Right.
Yeah. So what did you learn going into that marriage?
31 years now.
Huh?
Well, we've been married 31 years now. So
congratulations. That's good.
Something to that. You know, I don't. I think you learn to more. I think I learned more to just be myself, and not can't please everybody all the time, which is, you know, with some of our personalities, mine, that's difficult. You know, you want to please everybody, but you can't.
So having that
pleasing
personality.
Everybody,
sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, it says if you're pleasing everybody all the time, you're probably not doing anything worthwhile. You know, if you're not getting some criticism, or if somebody's not unhappy, then you're probably not stepping out enough.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what I was getting ready to say. It's really a double-edged sword, though, because you want everyone to be happy and you want to please everybody, but in realistically in life, you can't. It's not even possible. So then I think you have to go back and decide again what's really important, what's really important, what's really, you know, ethically the best thing to do, and who should I please, and how should I handle all that? Is again, yeah, it's difficult, but I think in time, like you're describing, in time, you hopefully you start to figure it out, and get better at it.
I think you get better at it.
You about have to.
Still probably always
it's kind of like the life balance thing. So you're constantly working on it. I'm sure it doesn't ever completely. You don't ever perfect it, probably, but you continue to work on it. Good.
If you quit working on it, you're probably going to get in trouble again.
Yeah, no doubt. So tell me about some times where you have, or here, let me give you an example. Let's say, you know, when we were in office, and someone is really negative about something that, you know, you believe in strongly, or someone is against, you know, what you feel strongly needs to be changed. How do you get them to buy in, or how do you handle it when someone's negative about things that are going on, and because you feel strongly that they're going good or something, and or you want to move in a certain direction, but people don't. How do you deal with that, and how do you handle it? How do you try to resolve that situation to get buy-in?
Well, I think if you're trying to get buy-in, you have to have developed some level of trust, or some you know, track record, to be able to try to convince them that, look, you know, that we're going to try this and we think it'll work for whatever reason, and, you know, things have worked in the past. But I learned, you know, through a couple of mistakes early on in my practice career, that if you're not getting criticism, or somebody's not trying to stop you from doing something, or they're not trying to take it away from you, then you're probably not doing anything worthwhile to begin with. I mean,
what kind of, can you elaborate on? Can you elaborate on the mistakes? Or
yeah, if nobody cares, well, I'm just gonna say, if nobody cares what you're doing, then you're probably not doing anything that anybody cares about.
Yeah.
If you want to, you know, put it that way. But one time, early on in our practice, we were in a rural area, fairly rural area, with a lot of small schools that didn't have athletic trainers, and didn't have a lot of help. And so we had put together a program where we were going to provide some athletic training services and some athletic training, some equipment for the schools, and then then they would use the doctors that we were setting it up with, and use us. Hopefully, this was back in the day before managed care, where people could choose where they wanted to go, and coaches could send people where they send their athletes where they wanted them to go for care. And so it was that was kind of the thing. So we had it all set up where we were going to capture a large part of the market, a lot of the schools, not the two big schools in town, but a lot of the smaller ones all around. And we had that's when the nonprofit organization that has turned into the ICAS nonprofit vehicle, that's when we first set that up. And then we just kind of converted it over for ICAS. But we set it up back in the early 80s for this purpose. So we had a nonprofit set up to provide this stuff for the schools and have all that working. And then some other providers in the community complained. And so after the complaints and the criticism that we were trying to take over the market, which we were, and we would have, but because of the complaints, we decided to back off and didn't do it. And then then ended up nobody did it. They didn't do it. They didn't do anything with it. And so kind of one of those things, looking back, we should have just done it because it was the right thing to do for us and for the schools, and we should have done it. And instead we caved to external pressure and petty rivalries, and then nothing got done. So
none of the schools benefited from it.
Right.
Yeah, that's too bad. Great examples, though. Those are great examples. Tell me where a lot of leadership is developed by people that, I think this kind of goes along with what you said, where someone gives you an opportunity, or, they give you a little bit of rope, and you either, climb up the rope, or you're stuck down, you hang yourself down in the hole or whatever, that analogy. And then other times people become leaders by really going above and beyond, what you would kind of expect them to. Have you, or do you know of anybody that has done, leadership things where they've really went above and beyond what is expected of them?
I hadn't thought about that one.
You missed that question on the list.
Yeah, I must have. Might have to come back to that one. That was a pretty big list, Rob.
I know it was. I wanted to make sure I was able
to pass on that one.
Yeah, I want to make sure I could fill my time. Okay. So let's go then to this one. So tell me about during your time in the sports section, what do you think is what do you see, in your memory as really one of the big things that you did while you were there? What was a big change that you were a part of that you're proud of?
Well, when I took over was I don't remember the exact date, but it was back in the financial crisis, so it was close to 2008, somewhere in there. And so everything was kind of in a pullback mode. People were dropping memberships, not attending courses, and so the section income took a big hit and was down. So those were financially, those were tight times, and there were some there were some things that we had to cut or put on the back burner. And one of them was the traveling fellowship, and that was Kevin's. Kevin wanted to do that, and we had to say no, but we just couldn't afford it at the time.
Yep.
But we kept it alive, and even after Kevin had gone off of his presidency, we brought it back and were able to put it in place and get it going and keep it going. And so I think that was, there were a lot of things we did to add benefits back for the membership, but that one just always stuck out to me because it was a big deal to Kevin when he came on as president, and we had to say no and make some difficult decisions, which he supported.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were able to bring it back because we came back very strong, and finances were much stronger just 2 or 3 years later. But by then he was out of his presidency, but we were able to resurrect it, and as it's been a success, I think.
It's just been
very well.
Unbelievable. Yeah, and so many young therapists have went through that, and I talked to a lot of them. I don't know how many of them that you talked to, but I talked to a lot of them, and I see where it's like totally changed, their careers. I mean, you think, well, is it possible that a 10-day trip can really change someone's career? But it really has. I mean, it's really made positive. I mean, not everybody that goes through it has turned out to be, just a total superstar, but I mean, like 3/4 of the people that have gone through it have really changed like the trajectory of their career, which it's unbelievable to me how that works and the positive impact that has had.
Well, I think it's just that same thing goes back to, like we were talking about in the beginning of our careers. You got exposure to some of those people, and so you see what's possible, and then you have that connection, that network connection, where you need a little help or a little guidance. You have somebody there that is, to some extent invested in you.
Yeah.
And then, doors are open, and if those guys step through, then, good for them. So it's like I say, it's nice to go back and see those names pop up again, CSM making presentations, or
exactly some
of
of them are like
residency.
Yes, well, some of them now are, they're like physical therapists for professional teams and colleges, where before they were working, just a normal outpatient clinic job, and then through people they know and what they've done, or just even. It sounds to me like some of them, even just the fact that they were picked for that, is like a stepping stone in their career.
Right.
And the other thing
I think really has.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think that really has done what Kevin's original vision for it was.
No doubt. What I was getting ready to say was the other thing I think it has taught me at the time, because I was in the position when we got that pushed through, is the importance of not like giving up on something, because we could have easily just said, well, that ain't going to happen. We don't have the money. We can't do it. Just get rid of it, and not even look to try to continue it. But we continued to push it, and eventually it went through. So being persistent with something that you think is important and of value, and not just letting it drop.
Definitely. Yeah.
So tell me about, you talked a little bit about your relationships with people, or that, when you're a leader, you have to have, or part of being a leader and part of making change is having relationships or people trusting you. And I know because of our relationship, and I know you and your relationship you have with many others, that you have some very strong relationships. Have you ever had like a work-related type of relationship that like went bad? I mean, where it like ended up not working? I mean, do you have anyone that you were like really close friends with? And you don't have to give a name or anything, but you were close friends with that you're not now, and because of some silly work related thing, or you're too nice of a guy. No, you.
I can't I can't think of anybody right now. It might come to me later, but
You probably don't
I
have
can't
one.
think of
You
any.
probably don't have one. You're too nice.
Not anybody that I
That it
can think
stands
of.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about like, I know you had some ideas and you had some vision when you were in your leadership positions, or even now still probably. Where do you, when you come up with some idea, where do you think they come from? What makes something, where do you, how do you develop it? What are you thinking about when like?
I don't think I'm the idea guy. I don't think I think of them. I don't think they come to me. I think they come from other people, and then you see an opportunity to put it in place and do it. But
You're not the idea guy. You're the once the idea comes, you help develop it.
Yeah, or I try. I don't, but I don't. I'm not a. I wouldn't call myself a visionary. I don't think I come up with the ideas, But if we can put boots on the ground and get it going, then I don't mind getting in and trying to figure out how to do that. But I don't think I'm an idea guy.
What about in your non therapy life? What about like, so like, was it your wife's idea to do real estate stuff and get rentals and things like that? Or
My wife and my son.
Really? So you're just riding everybody's coattails.
That's right, exactly. You just hang on and see where it takes you.
Well, good. That's awesome. That's awesome that your wife.
No, my son probably got it started. He was interested, and then he got us, and we had some opportunity that he found to buy our first one, and so he lived in the house, and I had started doing the travel jobs, and so I would stay up there with him, and we would work on the place.
Yeah.
And then we kind of redid the garage apartment, and so it was kind of fun and gave us time together, and then it turned out to be okay financially. And then Karen kind of started getting interested, and she's always liked redoing stuff.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a good thing she could channel those energies into redoing other properties instead of redoing our house all the time.
Yeah, that's the way Julie is. She likes that kind of stuff too, my wife. So we it works really good with us as well.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears a little bit here. Let's say you have a position, whether it be like a job or a position in the academy or something, and you have two people that are fairly equally qualified to do the job. How would you determine which one you would pick? What kind of things do you look at to decide who you want to do that job?
Well, at first, it's track record. If you ask them to do something in the past, did they do it? Did they do it in a timely manner? And was the quality good? And then I think the other one would be motivation. Are they doing it for themselves? Or are they doing it for the organization and for good of the organization, or just trying to advance their own agenda?
How do you
I'd
tell?
rather have somebody that was.
How do you tell if they're?
I don't know, track record or just the way they present. And probably can't always tell. I mean,
yeah, sometimes it might be hard.
Sometimes it's obvious. Sometimes it's not so obvious, and sometimes after the fact you figure it out.
Yeah. Once someone is in a position, let's say once someone's in a leadership position. So think of people maybe, and again, you don't have to give names for an example about this, but think of leaders that have been in positions that you've been in before in the past. What do you think one of the biggest mistakes that leaders make are? Some of these questions are kind of tough, aren't they? They're not all easy. They're not all home runs.
No, I think it probably is not listening. Again, it's they too arrogant and not listen to the people that they're supposed to be serving and leading.
I'm sure that happens a lot. That's an excellent answer, and I agree with you. What do you think? How do you feel like, or what kind of things do you feel like someone, whether they're a leader or not, what do they need to do to continue to grow and become a better leader? So I guess you could even look at yourself and say, okay, what kind of things do I need to continue to push me to become a better leader or a better person? What things do you feel like they need to grow to become better?
Well, I think you always have to be willing to be introspective somewhat, not overly, but you have to look and if things aren't working, you got to figure out how or why, and then not be afraid to ask for help to figure it out. I mean, I've had friends along the way that you got to always ask for advice or ask for either professionally or personally or just life-wise. And so that I think that's important. You have to have people that you trust to give you an honest answer sometimes about, well, I'm doing this, or I'm thinking about doing this, and what do you think? And you don't want somebody that's just going to tell you, oh yeah, good, go ahead. Sometimes you need to, oh, that's stupid, or that's selfish, or that's not,
and that all goes back. I think that all goes back to what you were talking about in regard to relationships, because if you don't have a good relationship with somebody, you're not going to get that feedback, I don't think. I mean, when I think about like what you're talking about, there's probably not more than, I mean, I have a lot of really good friends and mentors, but really there's only about a handful of them that really are truly honest with you, like you're describing. And I think most of the time people are their intentions are well when they're not honest with you because they don't want to hurt your feelings or they don't want you to be mad at them. But if you have a handful of people that will tell you, you're not doing what's right, or that you're going the wrong way, or what you're doing sucks, or you're pissing people off, the people, I mean, those people you're right, they're really, really important, because not everyone's willing to do that for you.
No, if somebody will tell you you're wrong, or that they think you're wrong, or that you're making a mistake, or you're acting poorly, but they're still going to support you, then you got somebody that's valuable to you.
Yeah. And I've had some people.
You have a handful of those, you're a fortunate man.
You are. You really are. And I've had it happen too, where I was trying to be that way to someone who I was trying to help out, and they got angry at you, and it kind of turned things to where now you're not because you're being honest with them. Now they don't want you to really be their mentor anymore because they don't like what you heard. So I mean, it's tough sometimes because you think you have that relationship, and sometimes you realize you didn't have that relationship, maybe that you thought you did, or the other person doesn't take what you give them kindly, and get upset about it versus, taking it in and absorbing it and making changes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not always easy, is it?
No.
Let's see. We've gone probably about 50 minutes already, Gordon. Let's go about another 10 minutes here, and then we'll let you. I'll let you go. How about this one? I didn't have these on the list, but
Man,
I
that's
think
good.
you can.
You told me originally 2 hours.
Oh yeah, no, we don't want to go 2 hours. That's 2 hours way too much. If you had like a giant billboard that you could put up and you could tell people anything that you wanted, again, about anything, what would you put on it? This is kind of one of those silly questions where you got to think a minute and say, okay, what's really important?
I told you I wasn't an idea guy or visionary, Rob. Now you're asking me for
well, I came up with the idea of the billboard. You just need to put something on it.
Something on it. Do the right thing.
That's good. Yeah. It's simple. It's sweet. It's important. And impactful. Do the right thing. That's good.
You want to put a little trailer on it, you could put not the easy thing. A lot of times those are different.
They're not the same thing, are they?
Right.
Yeah, good. What?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, no kidding. So what, if you have like which you've probably had multiple times, I'm sure, some young, aspiring sports physical therapists working under you and looking for guidance from you, what kind of advice, what do you think the most important advice, good, advice, do you think you would give them? Give me, I don't know, 2 or 3 things you would tell them.
Oh, well, I get that question a lot about as far as the sports section about how to be involved or what, how to be more involved or what can they do? And I don't have any more advice other than just be available, hang around and, and meet people and stay in touch. I mean, I don't think there's one thing you can do or one pathway. It'd be different things for different people. Some people are good teachers,
Mm-hmm.
and if they hang around and meet the right people, then they'll get nudged and helped down that path. Some people are better at ideas or organizing programs or whatever. And if you hang around long enough and get and find the right people and network with the right people, then you'll get those kind of opportunities. So I don't think it's just again persistence kind of thing, and look for the opportunities, and don't be afraid to step out and do something out of the ordinary. When I started in sports PT, like I said, that wasn't really a thing. There were like I said, you could count the people that were really doing it on one hand, and but then I had that opportunity to go up to Cleveland with Lynn, and so I left Texas with a U-Haul truck and moved to Cleveland, and it was a great opportunity, but
it wasn't easy.
It's not always going to be comfortable.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. You had to sacrifice something to go do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't make hardly any money.
Yep.
For a couple of years, but that started that path. So sometimes it's not an easy path to get started. It's not much more opportunity today than there was.
Yeah.
Sure.
I've told people too for years that you really have to be there. You have to be at meetings. You have to get to know people, because if people don't know you, all the stuff that you said got you into your career. I mean, you wouldn't have had if you didn't meet the right people, right? I mean, you have to meet people.
Right. No question.
You have to have those contacts, and you don't get those, sitting in your house, reading research. You got to go to a meeting. You got to speak to people. You got to kind of put yourself out there a little bit.
If I hadn't gone to that first CSM as a student, yeah, I don't know where I would have ended up.
Yeah. So tell me, this is a
tab.
Yeah. So here's another question I didn't have on the list, but it should be one I think you can answer. These are surprise questions. So in the last like 5 years or so, is there any new belief or any new habit that you've done or instituted that has been beneficial for you? And again, it can be anything. It could be sleeping more. It could be exercising more. It could be, not listening to the negative side of your brain telling you things. It could be anything.
I think it's, and part of it's just age and opportunity, but it's spending more time with friends. I mean, I have a group of college friends of about 12 to 15 that still stay real close together, but then there are about 4 of us that are really tight, and so we've all made conscious efforts to spend time together now that everybody's at a point in their career where we can get together physically, in the same location frequently throughout the year. So I think it's been that probably making a more of an effort to
spend time with old friends.
With friends and keep those relationships going. And same with in my professional career, I'm fortunate to have a group of personal friends, and then a very close group of professional friends that like you said in the beginning, I really missed seeing people during the year. Even though you see them once a year, it's still after 40 years seeing somebody once or twice a year. It's you develop some relationship there.
You do, yeah.
And miss seeing them,
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So last question, and we'll finish on this one. How do you want people, when people think of Gordon, when you're completely done with the section, let's say you retire and you're not coming to things anymore, if people were to discuss you, what would you want them to remember you by? What do you want them to think of when they think of Gordon?
I get that I had some input in keeping the section going in the direction that the founders and those initial guys started.
You made change.
I filled my spot. My what would you call that? My time frame to pass it on to move it on for the next group, the next generation.
And moved it put it in a better position than it was when you took over. Yeah.
Just maintain the trajectory.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Very humble. Very humble. Well, thanks, Gordon, for doing this with me. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to hop on this Zoom meeting. Do you want me to send it to you so you can see it? See if you think it looks okay, or what do you think? After it's over now, you think it's okay? It's okay to post it without you reviewing it?
You can decide.
You approve? Do you approve of your answers?
Well, they're my answers, so I can't change them now.
Doesn't really matter.
If you want to put it out there, if you want to put it out there with your name on it, then go ahead.
Oh, I definitely will. Definitely will. All right, buddy. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks again for your time. I really appreciate it. I miss you. I hope I see you. Are you going to the meeting this summer? You think?
Yeah, I'll do everything I can. I'll be coming from Alaska, so sometimes it's
Oh,
logistically difficult.
when are you going to
I'm able
Alaska?
to. I'll go start work June the 1st, so I'll probably go up the 29th or whatever.
Where are you at up there?
I'll work in Anchorage, but then
Oh, I'm going to Anchorage in the 1st of May to do a meeting at a hospital up there. Yeah. Dang it, I'm going to miss you by like a month.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell my buddy Joe that I work with to go see your.
Oh, okay.
See your thing.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Send me the particulars.
Okay.
So I can send it to Joe.
Okay.
That I've got to work with.
We'll do. All right, buddy. Thanks. Have a good
All right.
Have a good rest of your Friday, and I'll talk to you soon. I'll be in touch.